Tumblr sexymen, you probably heard of them, and if you know them, you definitely love them. I have been interested in this whole concept and, what makes a Tumblr sexyman and the history of it for 5 years now. And it's consuming my life. Now, for those who clicked on this video who have no idea what the hell a Tumblr sexyman is, number one, it's literally in the title, and number two, you have been living under a rock. But fine, I'll give you a simple definition. A character who is well known for their skill on the website Tumblr. I will also put a pin on what makes a Tumblr sexyman and what doesn't, or whatever. It's kind of complicated if you look more into it. But yeah, there is a long history of Tumblr sexyman, and it comes all the way down from the beginnings of 2012, and it still affects us in the present. Once upon a time, it was the year 2012, and the world almost ended, but decided not to because of the new movie adaptation of Dr. Seuss's The Lorax came out. And it's about why deforestation is bad, and we need to protect the trees, because that's the reason why we breathe. But Tumblr didn't really care about the trees or the message that the Lorax was giving. All they cared about was how hot the Onceler was. The Onceler became really popular on Tumblr back in 2012. He is well known for being the OG sexy man, the reason why we have so many sexy men now. You could even say he is a founding father of the Tumblr sexy man phenomena. The Onceler had many fanfictions written about him, multiple music videos that were created of him and also him. We'll get to that soon, I promise. And the question is, why him? Why some character from a Dr. Seuss book would get so much attention on the internet? Well, that was because he was sexy. The Onceler became so popular because of that emo swoop haircut and how he was not really that much of a bad guy. The reason why he became a billionaire CEO who cuts all the trees is because his mom was disappointed in him, and he had low self-esteem, and his dad's out of the picture, probably got the milk too. So, what else to do on a regular Saturday night when you feel bad about yourself? You go and cut down all the trees. That's really relatable. The Onceler was so loved that he had so much material about him, mainly like ass blogs, which some of them would be AU versions of the Onceler, which could be the Onceler but blue, or the Onceler with a different occupation, or Swagler, etc., the Greedler, I don't know, it could be anything. The fandom would have ass blogs, which would, be anonymous people who would ask these characters about, what their favorite food is, or if they like a certain character or not. And usually these ass blogs would, reply with, drawings to tell the story or to tell what the character is saying to this question that they're responding to. Now, you probably have seen all of the ass blogs I showed you and went, what are you showing me? There are certain drawings that are in there. So let me address the elephant in the room. Back in the Lorax fandom, or more like the Onceler fandom, Onceler, who was quite attractive, had no one to ship him with. The fandom couldn't ship him with a furry, they couldn't ship him with O'Hare because he's conventionally unattractive, they couldn't ship him with Ted because, well, he's young and a kid, and that's gross, and they couldn't ship him with himself, that's way older, because that's just gross. We don't like old men. So, the fandom was a little bit freaky, but they weren't freaky enough to go and ship him with the Lorax. So, the fandom was a little bit freaky enough to just ship him with himself, which is called oncest. What's oncest, you may ask? Oncest is basically them shipping the Onceler with the Onceler, except they would be different divisions of the Onceler. For example, regular Onceler is now dubbed to Oncey, which the fandom calls, who is feminized to be this sad little uwu boy who is shipped with the Greedler, who is the division of the Onceler, who is evil and corrupted with greed and all of that. Then they ship the two as if they were different people, but they're still the same person. It's very confusing, but once it clicks in your brain, it clicks in your brain. Also, self-cess, which is the ship word phenomenon for what's happening with oncest was very popular with Tumblr sexymen. Very popular. I'm not quite sure where self-cess originated from. Most people say it originated from the Lorax fandom, while some others say it originated from another fandom somewhere in the early 2010s. I can't find much strong evidence supporting either claim of, where self-cess originated from, so it's kind of up in the air, so I'm not sure. But oncest was very popular in the fandom.
Moving on. Oncest. What is that? That is, I heard there is some sort of, there are people who have a sexual predilection for my character in the Lorax named the Onceler, and that having sex with the Onceler is referred to as oncest, and someone just tweeted that, and that is very odd because he's not a real person. I do agree, however, that he's extremely sexy, but I don't condone sexual fantasy about the Onceler. I don't condone it. Since you worked on the Lorax, have you heard of a little thing called oncest involving your character, the Onceler?
But basically, Ed Helms, he answers questions on Twitter, and a lot of it was just the Onceler fandom talking about oncest and talking about how hot the Onceler was, which was him, Ed Helms, reacting to what oncest is, and he's obviously kind of disappointed in the fan base. Oncest was extremely popular. In fact, that people started making their own, Oncelers, like I said before, and shipping their own Oncelers that they made up with each other or with other people's Oncelers, which created AUs, which is shortened for alternative universes. There were popular alternative universes such as the Truffle Flu, which I haven't really gotten into it really, but the easiest way to describe it is it's basically the Lorax version of the My Little Pony infection AU, except imagine there's different Oncelers in there. History repeats itself, doesn't it? And there would be a camp for all the Oncelers to go to. And then they would have a high school, Thieville High, which later on got dubbed to Thornville High due to de-Onceration. Which, you may ask, what is de-Onceration? Since, Onceler's popularity started the Trample, and since people wanted to, make their projects a little bit more, separate the projects from its original source, they decided to make it different. They would dub it to different words. The Oncelers wouldn't be the Onceler anymore, it would turn into an OC. Now, that's basically the synopsis of the Onceler fandom as much as I can in 10 minutes, so yeah. I'm pretty sure I have glazed over some details or whatever. If you have more information on stuff or there is something that I did miss, feel free to comment about it in the comments below. So, yeah. But the Onceler not just had huge influence at the time of 2012, he will have a huge influence on everything on Tumblr since then. He is the founding father of being a Tumblr sexy man. And when you do think of a Tumblr sexy man, you name the Onceler. In fact, when you think of the movie The Lorax, you don't necessarily think of the message. Sure, you might think of the Let It Die meme or the Lorax and how he speaks for the trees, but most importantly, a lot of people remember the sex appeal of the Onceler. And even though multiple people who are considered lower than him in classes have gained much more popularity than he did due to the reach of Twitter and TikTok. But he's still a founding father, as he had a huge fan base on Tumblr back in 2012 and the peak of his fiction, but he also paved the way for so much to come. During Onceler's reign on Tumblr, which later on ended in 2013 according to Sexypedia, another bad guy, another Tumblr sexy man came into the picture, which would be Bill Cipher from popular Disney series Gravity Falls, who appeared in the episode Dreamscapers on July 12, 2013. Now, you will look at this evil Dorito and go, what the hell does this have in common with the Onceler? He's not even human, which you would be right. But oh, sweet naive one, you think Tumblr cares? Tumblr was so bored to give the Onceler someone to ship him with that they decided to ship him with with himself. Do you think this was gonna stop him? No, they're gonna make him a twink too, which is something that will happen to non-human Tumblr sexy men where they become twinkified white men. In fact, Bill Cipher had this character design, which is dubbed to Tumblr Bill, which is created by Scaredy Cat on Tumblr. This one is very popular, and you will see this character design mentioned a lot in this video. In fact, this character design was so popular that Alex Hirsch was made aware of it, the creator of Gravity Falls, which he talked about on the channel, The Mystery of Gravity Falls, or a live stream showing the real human version of Bill Cipher, which looks nothing like the Tumblr Bill at all.
Can I marry this guy?
I would.
Yeah, can you give this guy a little bit of color?
You got it, friend. I'm gonna make.
Oh, there it is, guys. you wanted it. You got it. I'm hoping if I don't see some like really beautifully rendered and sexy drawings,
Okay, I didn't know that already.
okay. If I don't see some really sexy and beautifully rendered drawings of this by tomorrow, I'll be real disappointed, guys.
I'll be honest.
What happened to the
I gotta
shirt?
do fan art. I want to do fan art of this human Bill.
Oh boy, you guys, we're real close to that 25K.
And later on, this, canon human version of Bill Cipher kind of became decanonized because the fan base did not react very well to it. What makes this even more funnier is that in the Book of Bill, which got released in 2024, this version of Bill gets referenced on thesimudrowned.com, where Bill points at this version of himself and said that this is an imposter, which is kind of funny in hindsight with, this happening almost 11 years ago. Like the Onceler fandom, there were also many AUs within the Gravity Falls fandom, but Bill was kind of bit of a start of a certain trope that you would see later on in fanon, which would mean that a lot of, Tumblr sexy men would have swapped versions of them, which would basically be the opposite of their personality, the opposite of what they look like, and Bill Cipher kind of was the beginning of this, which was his opposite version of him, which was called Will Cipher, which was basically the less evil version of Bill Cipher, which is something you're going to see a lot in the future of fanon of multiple Tumblr sexy men, where a Tumblr sexy man would have a AU where there would be a character that would represent them, but would be, the opposite of their personality. What they would look like would be different from what they appeared in the show. And this set up so much more in fandom of Tumblr sexy man. Literally, Bill Cipher gotta be the pioneer of that too. Moving along from Bill Cipher, there is Sans from Undertale. Another Apollyon came into the game. Sans was also quite popular in the same level of Bill Cipher and the Onceler. However, his peak was a little bit different, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Sans from the hit game Undertale became extremely popular in 2015. He got shipped with himself, like the Onceler, except the self-cess was with his AU versions of himself. Like Bill, he even got humanized / twinkified, except this whole trend has died as of recently in the 2020s. And Sans got a lot of treatment, like Bill Cipher and the Onceler did, with many fanfictions, many music videos, many... You know what I'm saying. There is one thing that Sans had that was a little bit different from Bill Cipher's and Onceler's fanbase, and that was the Sans fangirls.
Baby girl, daddy's home. Hello, princess.
Rings a bell, huh? Self-shipping was quite popular in the Sans fandom. Also, a thing in sexy man culture. What's self-shipping, you may ask? it's when instead of making Sans be with someone else in the game, or someone outside of the game, or himself, you ship him with you. Yes, yourself. Which a lot of Sans fangirls did, which resulted in a lot of discourse. In self-shipping culture, also dubbed as Yumi shipping, there is a term called non-sharing Yumi, which is kind of self-explanatory, but you basically do not share the character you ship yourself with, meaning you do not want to interact with doubles, which is also self-explanatory, but you, for example, as a Sans shipper, would not want to see another self-shipper on your timeline. So the respectable way to do so would to block them and, say, hey, doubles DNI, like, you put a boundary there. But back then, people did not do that. Instead of blocking other doubles or simply not interacting, Sans fangirls would make videos attacking their doubles or making gore of other people's OCs or personas because they like Sans and Sans is theirs. Now, I will be aware majority of Sans fangirls who did this kind of behavior were trolls who wanted attention and who wanted to get clout from being on cringe compilations, which was very popular at the time, and I know that because I was an outsider looking in and seeing this whole phenomena of Sans fangirls. And obviously not every Sans fangirl acted like this. It was mainly trolls and a lot of people who were mentally ill, who needed help, who behaved like this. So I'm not making like a general statement like, oh, this is all of just Sans's fan base. And also, not like the fan base with Bill Cyphers and the Onceler fandom was pure or innocent as well. The Onceler fandom didn't necessarily self-ship or had self-shippers, or like the downside of like, a self-shipping culture that didn't understand like doubles and non-sharing Yumis. They would be problematic in the sense of their incest material being triggering to sexual assault and incest victims, while Bill Cypher's fandom, which honestly could just be a problem with the overall Gravity Falls fandom, had a lot of pro-shipping. A lot of people who thought Bill Cypher was attractive at the time, and I'm not saying it was all Bill Cypher fans, but they would pair him up with a literal 12-year-old. Ew. Anyway, going back on topic, Sans, like the other two, would be a part of many alternate universes. Except, Jesus, he was a part of many universes. Gravity Falls did create, like, a lot. And, like, I would say the Onceler, like, kind of had, like, a couple. But with, like, the Undertale fandom with Sans, like, Jesus Christ, he was a part of so many alternate universes. I can't name all of them, but I will name some, like Horror Tale, Glitch Tale were quite popular. In fact, Sans kind of had his own Themeville, which I don't know how to, like, describe it because I forgot the AU name. I will put it on the screen, but it was basically, like, all the Sans would, like, I feel so weird saying all the Sans would, be in this universe, and there was, like, Creator Sans and, like, the Error Sans, I believe, and they would, like, fight about, like, which one gets to stay or whatever. Like, they kind of have their own Themeville. I'm gonna put it on the screen, if I remember the name. He was a part of many AUs. The fact that they made an AU a part of all of the AU Sanses, that's how many AU versions of him. During Sans's time from 2015 to, present, back in 2018, a video on Tumblr, which was Fingers in His Ass, which was Sans and Nagito, another Tumblr sexy man, dancing together to the dubbed version of Asgore's theme.
Fingers in his ass, fingers in his ass, Kanye West he lies, fingers in his ass.
Basically, Fingers in His Ass is basically
driving in my car right after a beer.
But the original one, I would say, history repeats itself. Again. With this, a crack ship formed with Nagito Kamida x Sans Undertale birthing, and I feel like that is something that I should mention. in this Tumblr sexy man rabbit hole talk of a video essay. Now that I have introduced the founding fathers, but none of them really have much in common if you look at them. Bill Cipher is a triangle demon who wants world domination. Onceler was this guy who wanted to pursue something out of passion, became a greedy CEO who destroys the earth, in a way. And Sans, a skeleton who wanted to protect his brother, and monsters of the underground have what in common? Well, actually a lot. Despite their initial looks, all of them become way more popular than the media itself. In fact, so popular that you could not know much about whatever, media they came or originated from. It was everywhere. You could not escape them. It doesn't matter if you even knew where they came from. It doesn't matter if you even cared if they came from. You would just see Sans Undertale everywhere. You would just see Bill Cipher everywhere, They became so popular that they basically became like an icon. They all rose to fame because of their sex appeal, which was not on purpose. None of the creators had the intention for the fanbase to go hubba hubba while looking at these characters. They were also either villainous or were troubled bad boys, and most importantly, extremely unusual. And they were popular on Tumblr, and there are plenty of tropes seen in a lot of these Tumblr sexy men, but not all of them share the same tropes. In fact, I kinda would dub those tropes to be kinda unimportant. What matters and what is important is how the audience does with these characters. That is what makes a Tumblr sexy man. However, something started to catch on in 2019. The rise of industry plant sexy men. An industry plant Tumblr sexy man is when a character was created to be sexy with these tropes who wanted to be catched on by the drift of Tumblr sexy man culture. Oh, we'll give him a suit, make him evil, but he may be a troubled bad boy or whatever. Make him a deal maker like Bill Cipher, and why not make him a demon? Oh, I'm just describing Alistair, aren't I? Alistair came from popular indie pilot, now popular, maybe indie, I guess? Well, it's now on Amazon, but popular indie series Has Been a Hotel. Alistair is a part of the main cast who wants to help Charlie with her plan. Okay, not really, he's just there for entertainment. With that description, I guess he does have the means to be a Tumblr sexy man, but let me halt you. I'm gonna go on a full-on rant on why he's an industry plant sexy man, and also why I get so annoyed when people try to group him with the founding fathers. In fact, most connoisseurs of Tumblr sexy men would agree why he isn't a pure, organic sexy man. And not even the level of those three. Just people with basic knowledge say he is. Number 1, the reason why Alistair isn't one of the founding fathers is for multiple reasons. He never peaked that popularity. In fact, not every Tumblr sexy man is on the same level. When I said earlier saying Apollyon while I was describing Bill Cipher, the Onceler, and Sans, yeah, that was a class. Yeah, we're, circling back to that point. I'll be referencing the classes, which is described in Sexypedia. Not all sexy men are on the same level. We use terms stolen from the SCP wiki to separate the legends from the minor characters. Classes are applied based on the character's level of popularity at the peak of their sexy fiction. So, if a character loses popularity, please don't downgrade their class. No, these are loosely based on the actual SCP definitions. The community has decided to continue using these terms regardless of the varying similarity to their source. Apollyon, once-in-a-generation phenomena. The characters that you couldn't escape no matter if you cared about or even knew about the media they were from. The characters who not only transcended their own fandom, but created their own. Examples would be the Onceler, Sans, and Bill Cipher, the only 3 Apollyon sexy men to date. A time ant, these are characters that are widely known as sexy men across the internet, but never quite reached the popularity of an Apollyon. If you ask someone who isn't very familiar with fandom culture to name a few sexy men, they'll probably list some of these guys. Examples: Nagito Kamida and Alistair. And there's more classes, so if you want to read more about that, here you go, it's in the description if you want to see that. See? Right there, Alistair. Alistair is literally a time ant. But Jaden, he's just one level away from being an Apollyon. Yeah, I agree, but guess what? I don't see y'all grouping Nagito with them. Okay, some of you are. But how about the other Timats, like Harley Quinn, Antenna, Jax, Ingo, Regan, and Tony the Talking Clock? Y'all are crickets about them. Crickets. Alrighty, now that I established that Alistair is not met their level. But Jaden, you said that was for Apollyon, not the Finding Fathers. Maybe he is a Finding Father. Okay, I know I have said Finding Fathers and Apollyon interchangeably, but I will say that them being Apollyons are a bit different from me saying Finding Fathers. I know I've said it interchangeably, I'm sorry. For example, a Founding Father will always stay a Founding Father despite their popularity in the future. We say that George Washington is a Founding Father of America, but Joe Biden had way more votes than he did. Does that make Joe Biden a Founding Father? No. The TDOR is an Apollyon cannot be denounced, but also can be joined. A Founding Father cannot be denounced, while Oso cannot be joined. There, I cleared it up. And also, Alistair was not for the time of being a Founding Father. Anywho, now you may ask me, why is he considered an industry plant? Well, what does industry plant mean in general? An industry plant means someone becomes very popular from nepotism, wealth, favoritism, or their connections throughout the music industry instead of their own merit or organic growth. Now, I'll go and make that like sexy man coded or whatever. And sexy man industry plant is a character who becomes popular from nepotism, favoritism, or the creator's understanding of a Tumblr sexy man and trying to get caught in that drift, instead of Tumblr sexy man's unintentional sexiness or organic growth. I sound like a conspiracy theorist right now, but Alistair just isn't organic like those three, or any organic Tumblr sexy man in general. I also feel like I need to mention this, but in the Sexypedia, there is a trope called bait, and Alistair is underneath this trope. The Has-Been Hotel pilot was released a few years after the phenomena of characters such as the Onceler or humanized Bill Cipher. Alistair looked like he could be a parody of sexy man tropes, especially with his suit, bow tie, and teeth. He is primarily known outside of the fan base for this. However, Alistair has apparently existed in some form since Fizzy Pop was in high school. It says middle school here, but I don't think that's true because one time in an interview, Vivian Madrano said that he has been a character of hers since high school. And he first appeared in Zoophobia, Angels and Demons Interrogation back in 2013. The creator has also admitted that any sexy man bait traits were largely a coincidence. He was simply made to appeal to her taste. Now, it's not just Alistair who is bait. I mean, I'm not trying to shame this, but hell, even Mettaton and Antenna are considered bait. And I love Antenna and Mettaton, don't get me wrong, okay? But I feel like I just need to mention that. Okay, case closed. Now that I have discussed the Apollyon, the humble beginnings of, sexy man history, and Tumblr sexy man bait / industry plants, that doesn't mean Tumblr sexy man history is over. No, it's far from it. In the year 2020, Sexypedia got opened during the pandemic to record the history of all Tumblr sexy man on the fandom wiki, which is where I am getting majority of my information right now for this video, other than my memory and other videos I've watched. In the year 2022, Sexy Man of the Day, which was a popular account on Twitter that posted, Sexy Man of the Day, later on decided to make a tournament for the ultimate Tumblr Sexy Man. Now, unfortunately, a lot of this is archived, but I have found it from the wiki, so thank God. For chronically online people, this is like watching sports for us, cheering on for your favorite Tumblr sexy man to win the ultimate sexy man tournament. The final two was Sans Undertale and Regan Arataka. With this on Twitter, there would be so much hashtag Sans Sweep or hashtag Regan Sweep, and I swear to God, like one of the other was just trending on Twitter. And who would win? I'm gonna be honest, like Toby Fox's fanfiction, and yes, he was made aware of this, will tell you the answer. Having cheated his way to the last round of the competition, Regan finds himself face to face with Sans, who got there by literally doing nothing. Although Regan had a early lead, he decides if he wants to cinch this, he's going to have to collude with his competition. He's surprised when Sans, who was entered in the contest unwittingly by his brother, he didn't know what the competition was for, is glad to help him win free of charge. They both run a series of debates where Regan dismantles Sans by proving how utterly unattractive he is. As the debates continue, Regan puts on boy band style makeup and works out to be extra attractive. However, mysteriously, Sans' vote only seems to be increasing despite this. Sans mentions that Regan forgot that being unattractive is one of the key tenets of becoming a popular guy on Tumblr. Emotionally crushed that he possibly ever wasn't actually attractive at all, Regan considers falling out of the competition. However, he's cheered up by Mob, who says that Regan should to remember what he taught him. He should have confidence regardless of what anyone thinks of him. On the final day of the campaign, Regan shows up with rings under his eyes, a 5 o'clock shadow, and a dad bod. Without saying anything, he takes out a sandwich on stage and stuffs it into his mouth. He follows up with his special attack, putting his fingers in his mouth, like that one picture of Peter from Spider-Verse. The audience cheers, and Regan's polling makes a massive comeback. In the end, the results are revealed. Sans won by a single vote. Regan can't believe it. 1 vote? How could he lose by 1 vote? Even that stupid skeleton voted for him. Mob shows up and says offhand that since Tumblr's sexy men are unattractive, he wanted Regan to have self-confidence, not rely on what other people think of him. Therefore, he voted for Sans. Regan didn't know how to feel about this. Yeah, Sans literally won by 1 vote. It was literally 50.1%, while Regan was 50.0%. That was funny. Also, the Queen of England died too. It was a time to be alive. Well, unless you were the Queen of England. But the amount of Sans fan art posts on that day and the days after was insane. In fact, many people were making jokes that Sans was cheating on Nagito with Regan after cheating, or Nagito was cheating on him with Regan, or Sans and Regan killed the Queen of England, or it was just Sans who killed her. Now that I have gotten down all of that history, I'm now going to just talk about miscellaneous things that has happened over the 2020s. Like shipping another Tumblr sexy man with another Tumblr sexy man. Shipping another Tumblr sexy man with another Tumblr sexy man was quite common. Like ships like Nagito and Kamada, and Sans, and Regan X Sans, or Regan X Nagito Kamada. How Toby Fox literally drew a picture of Regan X Sans, literally 2 years later, well, sort of 2 years later. On January 9th of 2024, Toby Fox wrote, "Happy Valentine's Day," with Sans and Regan together. Also, some other mentionings of, ships was, the Onceler and the Warden, the Bill Cipher and the Onceler, which is dubbed to Cypherler, and, has, a huge account dedicated to it. The art's actually pretty fire, though. And a Bill Cipher x Alistair. Oh my god, there's so many ships of the Tumblr sexy men with each other. Majority of them have derived from crack ships, but some of it's not really a joke anymore. There's also other sexy man tournaments that has happened after, the ending of the 2022 tournament, such as 2023, Cecil being the new winner, 2024. I'm actually not sure who won that one. I'm not even sure if there was one, so if you have information on that, please tell me. And for this year, it was Stan Pies, which Bill Cipher lost to him, and the Pope died as well. In 2022, there was a game in development called Sexy University, where all the Tumblr sexy man would go to a university, in the title. There isn't not a lot known about this project as it's unfinished and the account has not been active for a long time, but it seemed to be a dating simulator where you could date, I think you could romance the Onceler and Bill Cipher, and I think also Alistair and stuff. The Onceler fandom also having a bit of a resurgence back in 2023. I was there for the resurgence, and basically back then it was many Onceler edits. Basically it was just full of thirst traps. What's also funny, a year later, now in 2024, Bill's fandom also had a resurgence as well after the Book of Bill. In fact, the whole Gravity Falls fandom had a huge, resurgence as well. The fandom has always been well alive after the show ended back in 2016, but this was a huge, bang in popularity. With the Book of Bill, people were drawing a lot of Bill, everywhere. Bill was everywhere, and we're back to talking about the fandom and Bill's sexy man symbol, like, in history and stuff. In fact, people were making their own bills, shipping their bills with each other, shipping their bills with Ford, shipping bills with themselves, shipping bill with who knows. Also, in that year, the Sexypedia got shut down in October of 2024, leaving the Tumblr sexy man community in despair, because it was breaking the rules. Fandom did not like that it had the word sexy in it, which is weird that they struck it down literally 4 years later, and they did it, like, out of nowhere, as well as the creators of the, Sexypedia were, like, confused as how, like, literally everybody was confused as why it, like, just, like, snapped out of existence. But, like, fear not, Sexypedia has been reestablished again on a new website, hence I'm still being able to use it. Anyway, I hope I can get the majority of the history down for Tumblr Sexy Man. I'm pretty sure I have skipped some details, but there's, like, so much about these fandoms, so much controversies within these fandoms, and how there's, like, tie mats that I probably, like, didn't really get into. So I'm sorry if I did not mention your favorite Tumblr Sexy Man on or during this video. I'm really sorry. If any of you guys care, believe it or not, I've been mainly an outsider for majority of Tumblr sexy man stuff, like, for majority of its time. Like, some of it I wasn't even conscious for, but some of it I, like, do remember. Like, for example, like, the Sans, like, fangirl thing, like, I remember majority of that. I started following the whole Tumblr sexy man thing after Sans's, like, huge, like, blowout and, like, the Sans fangirls thing, because I just followed that, and it fascinated me, like, people were that obsessed with him, and, like, people would be so obsessed with these Tumblr sexy men. It, like, interested me, so I've been pretty, like, really into this for, like, 5 or 6 years. Anyway, shameless promo time. I have even made an animation containing the Onceler and Bill Cipher stuff, so check that out. I even made my own comic on, Tumblr Sexy Man. It's called, actually, it doesn't really have a name, it's just called Sexy Man College AU, because that's just what it is. If you found this video interesting, please subscribe. I am a huge nerd on this topic, and also just a huge nerd in general, and I make tons of fan art about these stupid Tumblr Sexy Man, I know. Hell, some of my animations do contain them, like I said earlier. So follow me on my other platforms. I have TikTok, I have freaking Instagram, I don't know, you can look it up in the description. And, yeah. If you also really like my videos and want to see more, like, behind the scenes kind of stuff and other stuff, you could go and support me on my Ko-fi. Wow, that's awesome. Remember, reality is an illusion, the universe is a hologram. Bye, gold, bye!